It's your birthday, happy play birthdays in the past, happy future birthdays in the future. My name is LimedGreen, and welcome to the Strong National Museum of Play. What is the Strong National Museum of Play, you may be asking? Well, it's many things. It's got a carousel and a train, a butterfly garden, a play lab, a skyline climb, National Toy Hall of Fame. And what we're talking about today, Video Game Hall of Fame. That caught my eye a couple years ago. Just the idea of selecting the best video games of all time and putting them in a museum just really intrigued me. And we're going to be taking a look at that in a second. But I wanted to show you, like, the sister to the Video Game Hall of Fame, their Toy Hall of Fame for a second. Because this is, like, really funny. They have had this longer than the Video Game Hall of Fame. They've only had the Video Game Hall of Fame for 10 years. They've had this for like, I don't know, like 30 or something. But let me show you some of the toys. They have Transformers, My Little Pony, baseball cards. You go down. It's like, okay, Nerf ball, Phase 10 top, and Light Bright, and then Risk and Sand. It's like, so they're not only taking like the most popular toys, they're taking like the most innovative, I guess, like the ones that have really broke ground, you know what I'm saying, in more areas than one. So let's take a look at the Video Game Hall of Fame. I've written them all down, all 10 years. There's not as many as you would think. They only take in like a handful each year. So we'll take a look here. I've obscured it for my eyes only. So here we are. Tetris, Super Mario Bros., Pac-Man, World of Warcraft, Doom, Pong. First year, you know, that's kind of covering all your bases, all your genres. Next year, Sims, Sonic the Hedgehog, Space Invaders, The Legend of Zelda, Oregon Trail, GTA 3. Next year, Pokemon Red and Green, Halo Combat Evolved, Street Fighter 2, and Donkey Kong. Next year, Space War, Final Fantasy VII, John Madden Football, and Tomb Raider. Next year, Super Mario Kart, Mortal Kombat, Microsoft Solitaire, and Colossal Cave Adventure. Next year, Minecraft, King's Quest, Centipede, and Bejeweled. Next year, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, Animal Crossing, StarCraft, and Microsoft Flight Simulator. Next year, Miss Pac-Man, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Dance Dance Revolution, and Sid Meier's Civilization. Next year, Wii Sports, The Last of Us, Computer Space, and Barbie Fashion Designer. Next year, Asteroids, Myst, Resident Evil, Ultima, and SimCity. And the year that we are in right now, hopefully this video gets out, Quake, GoldenEye, 007, Defender, and Tamagotchi. So that's 10 years they've been doing this. You can go on their website even and vote on your favorite game, submit your favorite game, and hopefully it's groundbreaking and famous enough to get in, along with all of these games. Now, you know, the initial idea all these years ago was just to read them off and comment on them, but now that's been 10 years, I had a different idea. I was like, what if I compact, or create rather, my own list of games, 10 years worth, and show them, and that's pretty much my plan. So my rules were, they have to be not only popular, but as groundbreaking as some of these. Like something like I guess, Terraria. Yeah, that's popular, but, you know, you could argue, alright, well, what did it innovate upon? You would say, alright, Pokemon fans love doing this. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, yeah, that's popular, but what did it innovate upon? How is it as good as King's Quest or Centipede? You know? So, I also took, you know, all however many games are here, I just went through and I tried to use their, you know, 6-5-4 format. When you take a look at my games, don't be like, oh man, how come you didn't include Terraria? And how come you include that before Hollow Knight, you know? Just see them all as equals, you know, they should all be in the Hall of Fame. Just look at it that way. So let's take a look at it like this. Uh-oh. Don't look at okay, you didn't see anything. So 2026 Frogger. So I'm going to come up with an explanation for each game, of course, and why I believe it should be in the Hall of Fame. Hello, strong National Hall of Fame video game people. This is why all these games should be in the Hall of Fame. Frogger is a classic arcade game and was a plot point in a Seinfeld episode. Everywhere you go in an outside area, if you see an arcade, it's going to have Frogger. I can promise you that. How many frog characters do you know that Crossroads? Not too many. Alright, I think I've made my case. Earthbound inspired like all those quirky JRPGs. Omori. There's like a billion more. Or Undertale. Moon Remix RPG. Probably. No, that came out earlier. But the big one is Undertale. I'm waggling my finger. And then by process... Deltarune. So Undertale Earthbound needs to be in here. So going along, indie games. Ba-bam! Cave Story. If we think about, indie game, just take those words. Modern indie game, you think of Cave Story. You could argue that there are some indie games made before Cave Story, but when you think of the modern indie game, this is what you think of. It's popular, and it's a groundbreaking game. Portal, again, it's a popular game, and it kind of paved the way for Valve being like a juggernaut in the gaming space. I kind of fought with myself. I was like, Portal or Portal 2? So I just put Portal because Portal kind of made the way for Portal 2. That was a big thing with you'll see down the road. So Dark Souls, I also feel like needs no explanation. When someone says, oh man, this is the Dark Souls of blah blah blah, they're referring to Dark Souls being tough. A lot of games today, also, there's not a lot of games, like modern games, like 2020 games here, because we're going to be seeing their impact in the later years. But Dark Souls, we're seeing their impact now. We're seeing tons of hard games. And that's why Dark Souls should be in the Video Game Hall of Fame. Let's go along here to Among Us. Why should it be here over New Horizons? That is the question I wrestled with. And I said it kind of paved the way for those more communicative games like Content Warning and Phasmophobia. You could say that. That's what I'm going with. It also grew insanely popular, so much so that Inner Sloth canceled Among Us 2 and took all their ideas from for the Among Us 2, and they just put it into Among Us 1 as like free updates. Just for that, you got put them in a museum, man. So we'll go along here to 2027. Galaga. I think this is Galaga music. So this is like the space shooter, aside from the other ones they already awarded awards to. Feel like you got give it the, what do they say, give it the flowers it deserves. Let's move along to the crazy ones that I needed to throw in here that kind of need no explanation. Super Metroid and Castlevania Symphony of the Night. They together created the Metroidvania genre. They need to be in a museum. I have seen Super Metroid go into the polls on the website, and I guess it did not win because it's still not in the Hall of Fame. So this is me putting it in the Hall of Fame myself. Boom, boom, boom. That's me hammering it in the Hall of Fame. Okay, so the next one, I went back and forth, and I was like, should I put Metal Gear Solid 1 in the Hall of Fame or Metal Gear Solid 2 in the Hall of Fame? Because what was the other one I had trouble with? Like Portal, I was like, which is more impactful? Portal 1, Portal 2. MGS 1, MGS 2. So I put MGS 2 here, because a lot of people seem to favor MGS 2. Also, a lot of people say, oh man, MGS 2, it got a lot of predictions about, like, real life. How scary is it that they're talking about AI and AI is real now? So that's why it's in here. The Witcher 3. Why is The Witcher 3 in here, LimedGreen? I put it in here because it is an adaptation of a book that is both good, and people say, there's no side quests that are bad. There's no downtime. It's like all bam, bam, bam. Super, super compelling. Angry Birds. Why is that in here, LimedGreen? You could have put Flappy Bird in here for what I'm trying to convey. But I'm trying to convey, the mobile boom. Oh man. The iPad generation, Everyone's tapping their phones. They're flinging. Angry Birds kind of became a phenomenon in the 2010s. you could also say that about their movies? Question mark. Maybe not so much. But I think Angry Birds deserves to at least be in the Hall of Fame, man. They had, you know what? They had Angry Birds Star Wars. You know, they had a crossover with Star Wars. That deserves something. They were that big at one point. I think we go over here. Okay, we go over here. Yar's Revenge. Now, you might be saying, LimedGreen, what is... Don't look at that. What is Yar's Revenge? Why are you trying to pass this off in the Hall of Fame? Okay, so I played Atari 50. It's like a million Atari games in one. And one of them was Yar's Revenge. And it gave a little backstory behind it. It was like, you can find out more information in like a comic book back in the day. And that was really compelling to me. Because I'm like, first off, a lot of Atari games were like really simple, right? And this game came with lore in a comic book. And then, in addition to that, another Yars game came out of nowhere like last year, Yars Rising, and it not only like expanded on, I guess, the comic book and the Atari game. It like, I guess what him, I don't know. I kind of liked it, and it was a Metroidvania, and I'm not a big Metroidvania game fan. But I want to put it in the museum just off the fact that it kind of predicted the future of games having lore. This is an Atari game with lore. Resident Evil 4, they have the original Resident Evil in the museum. I feel like just put 4 in. Came out on the GameCube. A lot of people for a long time, they said, oh man, this is a game that never needs to be remade. And then they remade it. And I guess the remake is better. So it's better than perfect. I don't know. So Amnesia, The Dark Descent. Oh, there it is. Descent. So what I'm conveying with putting this in here is, like, I also fought back and forth about putting Amnesia in or FNAF in. So I put Amnesia in because Amnesia kind of paved the way for mascot horror, kind of in a weird way in general, because Amnesia kind of saved horror games on YouTube, if you think about it. Because, like, Amnesia / Slender and, like, all those... What's the one I'm thinking of where you gotta, like, play with a green night vision camera? It'll come back to me, but all those games, you know, you play and you go, ah! You know, and then that kind of led into, in 2015, FNAF, and you go play and you go, ah! And then, you know, there's a mascot, actually, and then, you know, that gets you to buy the merch. But horror before Amnesia was kind of like more so like Resident Evil-y, like action-y. So that's why Amnesia is on here. Elder Scrolls. Why is Elder Scrolls on here? Specifically Skyrim. I think this is kind of speaks for itself. It's been remade so many times. the one Skyrim grandma plays it a whole bunch, except for she's retired now. Well, she's playing it in her own time. I think just the fact that it's been remade so many times and re-released kind of speaks to the fact that you know, it's cherished. You know, they keep trying to bring it back. Also, you could say it kind of paved the way to like open world as we know it. Open world games. Oh, there's no other game underneath. Like when the game came out, everyone was playing, oh man, Skyrim. You know, you gotta get all these, I guess, dragons. I kind of started the sentence without thinking of how it would end. Try to get all these constellation upgrades, and it also had the thing of like, oh man, pick between like a warrior or a mage or like a fighter, I guess. And you know, it is very, it's like, the best way I can say is D&D but in a game. That's I'm not sure why I'm describing Skyrim, but you know, Skyrim, that's why it needs to be here. Pitfall. Why does Pitfall need to be here? It's kind of like not the first mascot, like one of the first mascots, like Pitfall Harry, you know? Mega Man 2, why does Mega Man 2 need to be here? Over Mega Man 1. Well, it's kind of like how they put... Go back. They put Final Fantasy VII here. So, I was like, okay, Mega Man 2 is recognizable, you know, the scene standing on top of the building. Super Meat Boy, why is that here? You have Meat Boy, and it has like all those characters in Super Meat Boy. It's also one of the, along with Cave Story, it's one of those first indie games that kind of hit it big. Undertale. You could say Isaac, Binding of Isaac, but I went with Meat Boy to get the precision platforming representation, I guess, in there. You know, you could say, or argue rather, this inspired to an extent, I'm not sure, Celeste and other neatly precision platformers. Undertale, yeah. You know, this game inspired by, where is it? Earthbound. You know, this also inspires others, which is like the ever-inspiring tree. The Giving Tree. Where's 2030? There it is, way over here. Dragon's Lair. Why am I putting Dragon's Lair here? Dragon's Lair is like, I want to say, like the game where it felt like more so a movie that you control. And it was like, wowie. Also, look at all these spoilers. And, you know, put that in there for that. You can tell I'm like losing steam. and I don't want to like make debates anymore. But Dragon's Lair was. You could also say it was like the. I keep wanting to say FMV. It's not FMV. It's QuickTime events, QTE. It inspired the QTE. Cuphead, another indie game made with a lot of passion, a lot of inspiration from like old cartoons, and it inspired like others to make their own old looking game. Persona 5 almost won 2017 Game Award, but was beaten out by Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which did win, and went on to like inspire like the whole next couple years of people putting gliders in their games. But why should Persona 5 be in? It's got the stylish UI, and like everything about it is stylish. I think it went on and it inspired like people to look at their UIs and clean that up. I kind of like focus on mobile games. Candy Crush Saga kind of got like, you know, the casual market into gaming. You would say the same about Pokemon Go. You know, that whole 2016 year, I forgot about Dragon Quest 3 until just that point. And God of War, I really struggled about adding God of War 2018. Now this is why. Yes, God of War 2018 was a really good game. It won Game of the Year 2018. And I was like, alright, but did it innovate, right? What did it change? Yes, it shook up like the God of War entire series. But how did it change up the game's market? Like games as a whole. And then I came to like the acceptance that okay, it kind of like set the standard of like what PlayStation games, you know, how do I say, like their story, their gameplay, their formula is the better way to say it. Like the guy walking around and then the person talking to him, and then it's like, yeah, like the Uncharted-y kind of feel. But God of War 2018 didn't invent that. It just kind of like honed it, I guess, is what I'm saying. Along with the great story, you know what I'm saying? $20.32 Ninja Gaiden for a tough game from the NES library. Tough classic. Walking Dead. Really, for, I guess, you know, all the multiple choice, you know, choose your own adventure type of deals. You could have said Life is Strange until Dawn. Might have been too late. Splatoon. Why I chose Splatoon? First off, popular. Second off, innovative. By the way, they did like team shooters before Overwatch without loot boxes. And they also had like seasons and whatnot. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I put that on here. Mostly for like Call of Duty as a whole. I'm like, alright, Call of Duty gets something. And then it's also like a representation of like, alright, online. This is what online gaming can like really do. Online gaming at its finest. You know, this is zombies. This is spoilers. This is the peak of Call of Duty 2033, Mother 3. Put it in here. Maybe put it in a museum if we can't get localized. Stardew Valley. Why am I putting it in here over Harvest Moon? I'm not really sure. I had a big debate about it with myself. Personally, I thought I could slide them both in, but then I was like, It didn't really feel right. Shovel Knight, I put this in here because it was one of the first indie games to like make it big on Kickstarter. Fortnite. Moving on. I feel like you can't have like a video game Hall of Fame anymore without Fortnite. GTA 5. I almost forgot about it. Super Mario 64. I almost forgot about that. That would have been crazy. No Man's Sky. They kind of really redeemed themselves. And also, if you want explanation for both of those, this kind of like innovative 3D platforming as a whole, this kind of like innovated like how everybody like looks at video games, like how you play them, I guess, and like market them, because it became like the biggest selling game of, not biggest selling, like most money put into the game. No Man's Sky, they turned themselves around. That deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. Cyberpunk, same thing as No Man's Sky, so I wanted to put it next to each other. But they did it in kind of a different way. They released an anime. They also did like little updates. It's kind of, I feel like it's more mixed about Cyberpunk, but I would put it in there anyways. I played Cyberpunk. This is like a little bit of a reason for me to talk about Cyberpunk. But I played Cyberpunk recently, and I really like it. Where's 2035? Crash Bandicoot. They included Sonic. So I was like, okay, Crash Bandicoot, rival to Mario, went toe-to-toe with Mario. You could say he had like his own, what, not 3D, but like 2.5D, would you say? And he like represented PlayStation. He deserves to be on here. And people say his games are Dark Souls hard. Okay, Spyro the Dragon. you could say he's not as popular as Crash. I would argue that. But why does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? I would say he deserves to be in there because his first game really brought people together. You could see people playing Spyro no matter what age. And I've heard an interview with like some of the developers of Spyro. That was like what they were going for. That you could play Spyro no matter what age you were, what gender, anything. And I feel like Spyro deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Just off that. You could play Spyro no matter who you were, and you could understand it. You could understand running it around the first little hub world. Wizardry is my old game pick this time. It's kind of like Ultima they picked. I thought it was older than Ultima. I forget if it is, honestly, but it goes in there because it inspired Dragon Quest. Chrono Trigger, it deserves to be in here, just purely off the fact it has you talk to people and then you can run away and still read the text and still be talking to them. It came up with that, and we don't have that in today's modern day. Put that in a museum. So Uncharted 2, I put that in here over Uncharted 1. Mostly off of the opening scene. But I wanted Uncharted in here because Uncharted's pretty goated. You can see I tried to repress my Nintendo urges here. Speaking of Nintendo, let's talk about Super Mario Galaxy. Just the act of the gravity, keeping you rooted and then letting you float freely. I think that deserves to be in a museum. Vampire Survivors and Embodiment of the Scarlet Devil, Toes 6. These two I put in here. This is the last game, by the way. Both back to back, because this inspired or helped create the bullet heck genre, and this helped create the bullet heaven genre, which we see through things like Hollow Cure. And yeah, that is my list. 10 more years of video games that deserve to be in the Video Game Hall of Fame. What do you think? Would you put all those things in the Hall of Fame? Or would you put them in the Hall of Shame? Ew! I hate Cuphead. I hate GTA 5 and Telltale's The Walking Dead. Pitfall. Ew. Let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.